Okay, so it looks like we got breaking news, shocking news. So what's going on is the first brick in the wall has fell out. It has broken. So this appears to be the first time, there's been this big unity sense ever since the sort of anti-Biden campaign the Democratic Party has started, after the debate. And everyone's kind of getting behind Kamala. It honestly became kind of a unity between progressives and liberals, for example. Sometimes it was actually the liberals who were still supporting Biden, right? But a lot of progressives, like Mike Figueredo, David Dole, big on Kamala Harris. And so that unity has held pretty strong, especially because she chose walls. So it kind of kept that continuity going, the Delta Epsilon definition, all good. But here is the first jump discontinuity. Continuity has failed here. So we have here, you're going to see Kamala Harris. She's in Michigan speaking at a rally. And what's going to happen is there's going to be protesters chanting, right? Pro-Palestine protesters chanting, going to say, like, you're supporting genocide, Kamala, something like that. And what you're going to see is her response. What I'm going to first do is there's actually the clip that's going viral. There's sort of like a predecessor clip because they were talking for a while. They're protesting for a while. So I want you to see that clip. I'm going to give you all the context and everything. And then we're going to see kind of the reaction of people all around sort of social media. So go ahead and check it out.
Project 2025, if he is elected. It's all good. It's all good. I'm here because we believe in democracy. Everyone's voice matters, but I am speaking now. He intends to surrender our fight against the climate crisis, and he intends to end the Affordable Care Act. You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that, otherwise I'm speaking.
So what you could see there in the predecessor clip, she kind of is more political. She's kind of nicer, kind of kinder on that. But she never gives an actual acknowledgement on the issues. It's just kind of this weird, oh, hey, I believe in democracy kind of thing. But it's like, yeah, but what is your thought on the issue? Like, do you acknowledge what they're saying? Like, what are your thoughts on it? Because I think a lot of people might look at that and be like, oh, well, that's some kind of thing where they should stop protesting. But I don't really think that would stop the protesting. I think what would be argued to stop the protesting if you say, hey, I totally understand what's going on in Gazans and we want to help them, etc. And so that kind of doesn't really help anything, right? But she seems more chill there, but they keep going and then she gets pissed. She gets heated. She looks genuinely mad. You can see it on her face here. She genuinely seems angry. I don't know if she felt like it was anything tinged on like misogyny lines of like interrupting a woman, for example. I think there's definitely like kind of a thing where women get interrupted more, but this kind of heckling happens all the time to literally everybody. You can see videos of Obama and Biden, and it just happens to everybody. And then a lot of the protesters themselves are women, like wearing hijabs, like, you know what I mean? So it's not really that. And so this is really, really controversial here. This is actually in the state of Michigan. The big concern, one of the big concerns about Shapiro was that he would actually really hurt you in the state of Michigan. Now, Michigan was not even close last time. Uniquely within the Rust Belt states, it was won by like 2.5%, which is hundreds of thousands of, like a couple 100,000 votes basically. Whereas Wisconsin whiskey was like 0.6%, which is like 20,000 votes. And then, Pennsylvania was like somewhere in the middle between those two. I think it was like slightly over 1 point or something like that, 1%. So this is kind of concerning here. And so now this strikes a bunch of responses because there's been a sort of unity because progressives who don't want Biden have come together with liberals who don't want Biden. And so now we're kind of seeing this for the first time where we're having a kind of negative response. So this guy who had actually posted saying this is a bad faith response to people who just want to end a genocide and want her to commit to that. Some Democrats are already running with, quote, she told them, but that bad faith engagement is also alienating and harmful. So I think that's in reference to the previous one. And so there is actually some really important context to be given. So she did actually meet with some people beforehand. I don't know if it was the exact same people that are protesting, but she met with some people beforehand of the uncommitted voters group, I think, who are basically advocating for more Palestinian advocacy. And so she met with them and said, hey, like, you know, we understand you, we see your view, etc. So that's some important context. She met with them prior and spoke to them. So maybe she's kind of thinking like, oh, come on, dude. Like, I already met with you guys. What are you guys doing? And so I think a big thing that I think a lot of politicians are missing on this, even if they say the right things politically, in terms of, like, we saw Josh Shapiro speak in response to what he said 20 years ago, where he's like, oh, Palestinians are too battle-minded to have a two-state solution, run their own state. That's basically just the same way of Ben Shapiro saying, hey, you know, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. You know, they're too savage. You know, they're uncivilized. That's what he was basically saying, right, in Democratic lawyer speak. And then he didn't show any humanity or view of like, man, I really am horribly feeling for their suffering, etc. He's never said that. And so this says, Harris said she, quote, will not be silent on Gaza suffering while telling Netanyahu to get ceasefire deal done. So it says Vice President Kamala Harris vowed to, quote, not be silent about suffering in Gaza and the Israel-Hamas war, saying she expressed her, quote, serious concern to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Thursday while telling him it is time to lock down a deal. So she talks about how it's important for Israel to defend itself. But she says the images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time, we cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent, Harris said. And so it might sound crazy, like this might sound like kind of piecemeal, basic kind of thing. That's actually a big thing for American politicians. There really isn't much humanity shown towards Palestinians. And I think that at this moment, that's actually the biggest indicator of sort of being pro-Palestine that's kind of accepted in the Overton window. So she's definitely better than Biden, and she, I think, has done some work to kind of express this. But obviously, I don't think that that's something serious in terms of like a promise or being pro-Palestine. That's obviously very, very baseline, right? But it's kind of the way the Overton window is set up. And so some of the biggest fans of Kamala Harris, especially on the progressive side, Mike Figueredo and David Dole, will look at their responses. So Mike Figueredo retweets a tweet from Matt Leck. You guys know him. He's from the Minority Report. I don't know where he lands in terms of being pro-Kamala or what, but he says, God bless every pro-Palestine protester who shows up to let Harris and Walls know they still got to do the right fucking thing. Shame on every lanyard freak who thinks you can duck this. Long time to the election, this isn't about that. This is about, can you have rallies without people throwing off the vibes? And the simple answer is not until you break against Israel. And this was tweeted by Mike Figueredo. And I think there's this big vibe that's going on of like a no competition vibe. There's no primary, no open convention, no competition whatsoever, just unity. Yeah, woo, 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 right? That's what it is. So it's like even the slightest of like a challenge, it's like, whoa, dude, stop! It's like, why? So it's like, dude, you're a politician. You should expect to be challenged no matter by who. That's your job. Your job as a politician is to be challenged all the time, forever. That's your job. That's literally what it's for. That's the whole position. You're a public servant. That's what comes with the job. So what we can see here from this dude, so there was a sort of bifurcated response that I personally saw. So there are a bunch of liberal accounts, and this is where the split is starting, right? We'll see if this kind of holds long term. But this guy says, holy shit, a Democrat not letting lefty protesters run roughshod over them during a campaign rally? How did I not know Kamala's the only Democrat in America with any balls? Where has this woman been hiding? So this is the liberal response. And there was a strong liberal response in favor. Then there's these people who, I think like these people, there's a group of people who are against Kamala who are now coming out of the woodworks. Their responses were kind of muted for a while because I think the anti-Biden sentiment was just so strong, there was no voice for them. And so this person says, Kamala Harris should be disrupted and protested everywhere she goes. People that defend this are not your allies. Continue to expose the contradictions. And again, I would just say that there's a whole swath of responses that are exactly like this. This is just the only one that I had actually brought up here. And so, you know, for David Dole, he also had sent out a tweet. And so we can kind of take a look at David Dole's tweet as well, where he basically had said that, you know, it's a mistake for you to have expected that you were not going to have to be challenged on genocide. So even he is criticizing both of these people who are the biggest Kamala Harris fans now, biggest defenders, going after him. And so what I see here is the first crack. It's the first crack. I'm not saying it's going to lead to anything long term. Time will tell. I'm not a predictor. I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I can see is this is the first crack I've seen in ages the first attack I've seen on Kamala that has started, because there was this unity between anti-Biden liberals and anti-Biden progressives, which is basically all progressives, and there's just been this unity. But now you can see there's people like this Swan Marcus guy, and there's a ton of these tweets with tens of thousands of favorites where they're defending Kamala, saying, yeah, go Queen, slay. And then there's all the people like a Matt Leck, where Mike Figueredo, he didn't send out his own tweet, by the way. I don't know if he was too scared to send it out. He's a big Kamala supporter. I don't know if he's like, I'm not going to send that out. I don't know. He's just like, he's retweeting it. But, this seems to be the first crack. And so we're going to see the Israel-Palestine thing is obviously like one of the most important issues, I think, especially on sort of a human level. But I think Kamala has made some attempt to kind of differentiate herself from Joe Biden. But again, it's a protest. It's a politician. You have to expect competition. And we're getting into this weird kumbaya zone where it's like, you can't do anything. If you challenge a politician, say anything, fuck you. It's like, whoa, dude, relax. This is literally part of the process. Challenging politicians, holding them to account. Yes, if Kamala Harris comes out and says, hey, I feel bad for suffering, that's not the same as actually being pro-Palestine or supporting Palestine. That's like the bare bones. So she keep pushing for promises, etc. And so I'm just not really understanding that. But I do want to give the context to that of Kamala Harris has made some attempts, and she's not a complete ass like Biden, for example. And I have to say, there seems to be a lack of humanity with Democratic politicians when it comes to Palestinians. And to be honest, even the criticism we'll see of Israel will be, oh, I don't like Netanyahu. It'll be something political, like I support a two-state solution. But it's rarely actual just humanity from the heart, where it's like, man, seeing these innocent women and children dying is just horrifying. That's just a very rare thing. Like Shapiro didn't say that, right? He said, I said that when I was 20. I support a two-state solution, but he never at any point talked about the horrors of Palestinian life. He never said it. He never said it at any point. So that's, I think, something that kind of makes me feel more kind of inclined to be like, kind of like give Kamala a little bit of space here because she did that. And honestly, I just haven't seen that very much. Even like the Democrats who are against Israel or whatever, it's always something political. Oh, I don't like Benjamin Netanyahu or whatever. It's never really like kind of on a human level. But anyway, so this is the first crack. We'll see. I'm not saying it's going to lead to anything long term, but this is the first crack in the unity between the anti-Biden liberals and the anti-Biden progressives. So we'll see how this goes. And there's a bifurcated response. There's the people, I guess maybe trifurcated if you want to say, because there's the people who hated Kamala Harris but had no voice because the anti-Biden sentiment was just so fucking strong. Then there's the people who were the anti-Biden progressives who are pro-Kamala who are now backlashing. And then there's the pro-Kamala liberals who are just, yes, queen, go! Slay, slay, slay!